Pretty much every movie is released on a Friday, but whenever there was a big event, they would have those midnight releases, which would eventually result in 7 o'clock releases on a Thursday, but there are those very rare moments where a movie decides to have no pre-Friday preview whatsoever. And those kind of worry me. And it's not just that Flatliners decided to not have a preview and kind of like, hide it from the audience to see it so there wouldn't be any word of mouth out there, but it's also one of those remakes that aren't really remakes because it's a sequel, but it's really a remake. So much so that the characters in this movie are practically the same characters from the original, just with, different names, they swap out the genders, but they do exactly the same actions and have eerie similar backstories to the originals that, yes, it says sequel remake. So if you want to save yourself the money, I would say just stay home, rent the original, because it's practically the same thing. But if you're one of those who you think that the 1990s version is a little too outdated, you want new effects, and you want to go see Nina Dobrev, then go see it. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if Nina was an actual doctor, I'd be sick twice a week. But for those who just want the breakdown of what happens in the movie up to the end, then here it is. Pretty much, you have these medical students who learn that by flatlining, killing themselves, and then coming back to life, they're able to remember everything they've ever learned and activate every part of their brain, limitless style. However, this also opens up all of the repressed memories that they've had, or as they refer to it, their original sins, which then come back to haunt them in the form of hallucinations. It isn't until one of them dies that they realize that this drug that they're on of flatlining is actually a wake-up call to right the wrongs that they've done. And so they go ahead and fix things. And also get a really good paycheck if you're an actor. While that's basically the premise, to me, what I truly think needs to be explained is the purpose of the movie. Because I'm not one who's against remakes and sequels. I'm all for them. I just want them to have a purpose. And considering that this is practically the same thing as the first one, I wonder, what is it adding? And let me emphasize, this whole sequel talk, I've seen the movie. No. But I do understand that, it was in the 90s when they made the last one. It's been 2 decades. You want to make something that's a little bit more, you want to take a story and revamp it for a younger audience and be able to enhance the effects and be able to maybe get a cast and crew that's able to tell the story better. And I would say that Ellen Page has that presence in her where she feels like a 60-year-old who can convince you to stop her heart. My cousin Diego, I believe, should have gone to Great Clips before filming, but he kind of adds the sense and the morals to the whole situation. And above all, the movie has great visuals. But what I think is a true standout, like I said, is that it's been 2 decades since the other one. And in all that time, we've had movies that have covered the topic of near-death, death, cartoons have covered it. So, again, you ask yourself, well, what's the point of it? And to me, it kind of felt like they were losing its focus at certain points because there's a part in the movie where there's this Kylie Jenner-lip dude who gets haunted by his aborted baby and then randomly gets stabbed by his hallucination. And then we just end up in a bar literally in the next scene. And I was wondering, okay, did they just, finish editing this last night on Thursday and that's why it didn't screen? It wasn't until I read into it and found out that there was a test screening where the audience members were confused as to why they were being haunted by dead ghosts and also ghosts that were alive since the dude's girlfriend was still around, that they decided to add this bar scene, which was literally just exposition to remind the people or explain to the people, yeah, these are our ghosts haunting us, that they're hallucinations. They're not literal demons from beyond the grave. It's just things in our mindset that are coming to make us feel guilty and realize that we need to change. And I'm cool with that, whatever. I think it could have been expressed or, directed a bit better, conveyed a little bit more subtly. But the big problem that I had with this was kind of the phrasing that some articles, and I'm not going to fully say the director, but some articles have kind of blamed it on audience members, that the audience doesn't know how to be able to think for themselves or be able to just suspend their belief. And the thing is, these are the top 5 highest grossing movies of this year. They know how to suspend belief. The problem is that, yeah, I'll give you their audience members who, trust me, I make explain videos, who really don't understand what's going on. But it's not about suspending belief. It's that even though there's a talking raccoon and his adolescent tree roaming around the galaxy, there still needs to be rules to that world. Here, you can flatline, come back to life. That's not something that actually happens in real life. But you can do that in this movie. There just needs to be rules to the hallucinations. So as I kept reading into the movie and I found out, the whole debacle with the sequel, that Sutherland was actually more than a cameo. He was supposed to be, as this quote says, the same exact character from the original movie. He just so happened to change his name, and the monologue that's supposed to connect everything together to the first movie was just cut out. So how the heck are we supposed to connect that? Are we supposed to know that his name changed and just connect the dots? Is the audience to blame for not knowing that? Because you didn't put the scene in there? If we're going by that logic, does that mean that Johnny Depp in every movie that he's in is pretty much just the same character, just with extra makeup and stuff like that? Should we just assume that every movie is connected, especially when you consider that you made the sequel and the original titled the same thing? Back to the story though, I do think it's a compelling story, especially when we have so many movies that deal with death and they come at it from different perspectives, especially because different filmmakers have different biases, they have, different things that they grew up with, different beliefs, and you have a bunch of movies that are able to dissect death in ways that deal with, opening portals to demons, others where they dissect the perspective of death just being a point where you restart your life from your biggest regret until you get it right, those that emphasize living life to the fullest, others that focus on helping others, getting justice, and those where they use kids to make profit. But Flatliners dissects that idea of being able to take this chance to go back and fix things, to forgive yourself for bullying someone, for abandoning your child, or even murdering someone. Thus, what would seem like a curse could actually be a blessing.
I think it's ultimately a curse.
For me, I don't think it's a curse.
For me, I see the whole thing as a metaphor for drug use, because they call it a drug in the movie, but it's one of those things where these guys are on drugs. It may help them for a little bit, but honestly, it's just going to deteriorate their lives, and it isn't until one of them ODs that they decide, you know what, we got to stop doing this, and then they make their lives better. Some people may see the Christian overtones or just religious overtones in general, considering that it's the afterlife, and proving the afterlife proves religion, even though it might not be yours. But it's one of those things where if you watch the movie, they don't really deal with the afterlife. They have those moments where they die and it just triggers their brain to do something, but there really is no moment where you go and figure out if there's a heaven or a hell. And characters die in this movie. We don't really dissect it. We go from Ellen Page flatlining to Ellen Page just straight up being flattened. But even though I myself don't think it's a fantastic movie, and whatever the Rotten Tomato meter says, or those of you guys out there, I think that even bad movies to the great movies, there's always things that you can learn. That's why I like making these explain videos, because you're able to dissect in what the story was trying to say, even when it may not be able to say it. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on the afterlife. I'm not saying that you guys are going to convert me and change my beliefs, but if you can come up with the greatest theory possible that is so bulletproof, so convincing, then I'll meet you outside Wrigley Field and we'll test it out.